Hi everyone, this is Meteorologist Joel Curtis with your Alaska weather segment, and this program was issued on Wednesday, August 18th. So let's get started. First, let's look at our satellite imagery. So we've got a bunch of upper level onshore flow, which is causing some atmospheric circulation and plenty of precipitation over the southern half of the state. But also I want to draw your attention to a system moving down from the northwest from the Chukchi Sea that's going to be impacting the whole entire North Slope and down to the Brooks Range and eventually the central interior as well. So that IFR that you see up there in the Chukchi, that's associated with the cold front that's moving in, some marginal VFR out in front of it. Also plenty of IFR out over the Bering Sea until you get down to about the Pribilofs or so, and it becomes a marginal VFR a little bit south of Kodiak Island. Just on early Thursday morning, there's one last slight chance of a little remnant of a thunderstorm right up on the Alcan border. And then also we have some IFR ceilings out in the Gulf of Alaska, as well as marginal VFR for the entire Panhandle and most of the North Gulf Coast, including Prince William Sound. Then looking at Thursday afternoon, hey, this is the first show I've worked in a while where we don't have indicated a lot of thunderstorms. Conditions are really stable, but there is that cold front moving on to the North Slope. It's now on land, marginal VFR out in front of it, and a marginal VFR but directly behind the front. Also the West Coast, there's a lot of marginal VFR with IFR coming right up to the coast. And then we can see in the Gulf of Alaska, marginal VFR, including the Panhandle and the Yakutat area. And then for the Bering Sea, of course, lots of IFR with the low clouds and the usual stuff this late in the summer out there. Then for Friday morning, a little bit of improving conditions right along the immediate North Slope, like let's say Udi-Bogvik or so. And then also for Kotzebue Sound, but still plenty of IFR north of Brooks Range, as well as along the west coast, including Norton Sound and down to Nunivak Island, and also for the Pribilofs, plenty of IFR out in the Bering Sea, and also with the new system moving in just south of the Alaska Peninsula and just east of Dutch Harbor. And then looking at the Panhandle for Friday morning, plenty of marginal VFR, but a little bit of improvement as you get further inland. And then for Friday afternoon, now that marginal VFR stays pretty much out over the Gulf waters, into Prince William Sound and parts of Kodiak Island, also the Alaska Peninsula, and then out into the area almost to the Pribilofs. Lots of marginal VFR with that front moving across now much of the mainland, and then IFR conditions all along the Beaufort Sea and some of the Chukchi Sea coast as well, and up through the Bering Strait. So now let's go into our pass conditions. First for Anaktuvik Pass, VFR in the morning becoming IFR late, and then turbulence in the afternoon. Also the same thing for Adigan Pass, VFR and then becoming IFR in the afternoon, and also some turbulence. Lake Clark and Merrill Pass, particularly Lake Clark Pass, we've got turbulence pretty much in the morning, but also will last a little bit in the afternoon. Still VFR conditions, but kind of some rough flying in there. Rainy Pass, VFR. Windy Pass, marginal VFR in the morning, becoming VFR. Isabel Pass, marginal VFR in the morning, becoming VFR. And then Mentasta Pass, marginal VFR in the morning, becoming VFR conditions. Tahitna Pass, marginal VFR in the morning, becoming VFR. And then for Portage Pass, pretty much the same thing, marginal VFR in the morning, becoming VFR. And Chilkoot and White Pass are expected to be marginal VFR all day Thursday. So for our freezing levels, you can see that colder air is up in Chukchi Sea as you go toward the pole. The freezing level drops downward and downward. But then we have that 8,000 level across the Brooks Range, and then it comes down into southeast Alaska. A little bit of 6,000 foot freezing level over the northern Panhandle and into the Yakutat area. And then two areas of 8,000 feet, one over Bristol Bay and all of the Alaska Peninsula, including Dutch Harbor, and then the really warm air aloft is down toward Vancouver Island. So for icing on Thursday, there's a small area of isolated moderate, 8,000 to 12,000 feet down off the Alaska Peninsula, out ahead of that next little developing system. But the main area of turbulence is isolated moderate, and then some areas of actually considerable moderate, 6,000 to 14,000 foot, and that's associated with that cold front moving into the northwestern portion and then on the north slope on Thursday. And for our jet stream now, the main jet is really south of most of Alaska. However, we do have some anticyclonic, meaning a high pressure ridge of a little bit of 115 knots and then dropping off to about 85 or so as it gets out of the southern Alaska Peninsula. And then also notice that the jet stream, a little bit of westerlies associated over top of that cold front that's moving onto the north slope. For 9,000 foot winds, it's pretty much the same picture, about 50 knots or so westerlies, and that's a little bit more inland as you drop down lower. That makes sense with the cold front that's moving in. 40 knots out over St. Matthew or so, and then you can see a little bit of 60 knots, but that's well south of the Alaska Peninsula, and then northwesterlies all off the Gulf of Alaska there, almost up to about 40 knots or so. And then for our 3,000 foot winds, plenty of westerly 40 knots onto the Seward Peninsula, also along the west coast. Also 40 knot westerlies associated again with that cold front moving across the north slope. And then some offshore flow. You can see 40 knots going through Kennedy Entrance or so and near Kodiak Island, and then drops off to about 35 out in the Gulf. A little bit of 50 knots well south of the Alaska Peninsula. So for our turbulence on Thursday, we've got some isolated moderate and then some considerable moderate associated again with that cold front. So look for Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, a little bit inland on the north side of the Brooks Range, and then also over in the northeastern interior, also on the Brooks Range. And then generally in the morning, but it might last a little bit later, past noon or so, surface of 3,000 feet coming out of Kennedy Entrance in the northwesterly outflow that we're used to. So that's it for our aviation briefing for tomorrow, and I want you all to fly safe out there and be sure to file a flight plan. Thanks for tuning in.